Let's talk about Notre Dame and this past year's game. You take a number one ranking and a 27-game winning streak into South Bend for one of the most anticipated matchups in the rivalry in many years. It's a perfect autumn day. Sky is blue, the grass is green
and tall
and very high.
And very high.
The Irish storm out of the locker room in those green jerseys. The place is absolutely electric. Can you share some of your memories of that game with us?
Yeah, it was a great build-up to a great college matchup. And the day before the game, when we went to the stadium, we have a tradition that we go and see the locker room and go on the practice on the field and throw the ball around a little bit and then get out of there. So we feel familiar with the setting. And when the buses were driving, we're in South Bend and we get onto campus, there was just people everywhere. It was the campus was flooded, which is historic for them. Standard, everybody walks the campus and the grotto and all of that. And as we came around the stadium and the buses pulled up, there was thousands of people there. Kids mostly young people, and they were just rabid. They were so jacked up. This was the night before the big rally and all the kind of stuff that that builds up.
They
to that.
filled the stadium in the rally.
Yeah, and it was the day of that rally, and as we got off the bus, we single file. We had to serpentine our way through the crowd, and they're kind of jabbing at us. It was just, and our guys loved it. They loved it because it was just, you could feel the energy. We get in the locker room, we walk right into the locker room, and they're pounding on the lockers and they're fired up because they could feel it. It was on. The game was on. And so the buildup was beautiful to the night before, and coming to the stadium the next day, or that night at the hotel, just so that at the rally. Okay, they had the grass growing tall and all that kind of stuff. They'd done everything they could. They had brought back Joe Montana. I promised our players he wouldn't play in the game. They brought back Lou Holtz, the historic coach that they had the only old guy that was still available that they could bring in. They didn't coach there that would come. And he talked at the rally. They went and got the guy who starred in the movie Jesus, the guy that the lead played the lead. He came up there and did one of these, in front of the rally. They went to Jesus to get this thing organized and fired up. They came out in the green jerseys. They did everything, And we had on the staff, we had bets whether or not they do the green jersey. I kept thinking, there's no way Charlie would take a chance, because if he loses, he can never, when's he going to do that again, And so the game is just a beautiful, beautiful matchup. And we were in for a dogfight. Now they're good. They're really good. And they're ready and as pumped up as you can get. And as the game is there, it ends in the darkness, at the end of the day, which is always really cool. And the second half is, dusk rolls in and all. It's just perfect. It was as packed as it could be. Our fans were all jammed down in the corner, and they were screaming like crazy, but they just couldn't match the Notre Dame faithful. And as the game would have it, they were really on it. They had a great game plan, and they were getting it done, and they were jacked up and all that. And as it comes down to the end, they go down and go ahead, and we're trying everything we can to stop them. And boy, they look like they're on fire, And so we have one shot to take this thing back down the field and win the game. And we have lived with a philosophy that you can't win the game in the first quarter, and you can't win it in the second quarter, and you can't win it in the third quarter. And we've always used the illustration. We've come back in so many games over the years that this was one of those times when we were going to have to do it, and it was going to be the final drive and the whole thing. I mean, it was as much drama as you can get. So as the last sequence begins in the game, on first down, I think we get sacked, and now it's first down we have an incomplete pass, and second down we get sacked, and now it's 3rd and 20, and we have 2 timeouts left. So we call timeout, because if we don't do something well here, it doesn't matter. Why save the timeouts? So we come to the side, and Coach Kiffin's upstairs, and Coach Sarkeesian's on the sidelines, and the three of us are on the same headsets, and we're talking about it. It's clear that in that situation, we're just going to try to get some yards and make some progress. So we tell Matt, here's the call, and look for Reggie, dump the ball down, see what he can get. Beautifully, it happened perfectly. Drop back, clean on the rush, hits Reggie. Reggie makes 11 yards, and now it's 4th and 9. Call timeout again, because there's no reason not to, because we have one play left. Day's over. Game's over. The place is going crazy. It's going nuts. It's just as loud and they're going to knock us off, And in my mind, all the way through this whole process, it was, who do you want to? If you got to give it to somebody, who do you want to give it to? And I did not want to give it to Charlie. And the whole way going through it, did in his first year, the whole thing, didn't want him to get that thing to hang on his mantelpiece, And here it is down to fourth down, and so the conversation, we're all very clear about it. Everybody else, probably Dave here is going nuts, and everybody's going crazy, but we were very clear, in our conversation, and the thought was that we had a play that we were calling, and just as Matt, okay, here's what we're going with, and Lane said, Coach Kiffin said, remind them that if they give us the blitz look, go to the audible. And so Sark tells Matt goes, okay, goes to the line, calls the play, goes to the line of scrimmage. And I remember thinking that if he has to audible, I don't know if anybody could ever hear it because it's as loud as 80,000 could get. I mean, what more could they ever want? They got it all down to one play. And he goes to the line of scrimmage, and Lane says he's got the look, which means he's got the audible opportunity. And so then there's like this pause, before he's getting under center, and he's not doing it, and then he steps back, I mean, it was awesome drama for us because we knew what was going on, and so, it's kind of like, look at Sark, and he looks at me, and there he goes through the audible, makes the thing, changes the entire pass protection. Everybody's route changed. Everybody had to do everything exactly right. They executed the automatic perfectly. He sets back, throws the ball to our best guy, and hits this historic, 60-yard play down, and that moment is just such an awesome moment when it happens. And I can imagine everybody else going crazy, but we got to go. We ain't done yet, because we want to see him score, but he got tackled, and so, and he gets pulled down, and so we go right to the next sequence, as it turned out, Matt made a terrible decision to scramble with the clock running out, and fortunately, he gets hit, and the ball goes out of bounds, and the clock gets stopped, and the place is going crazy because they think that they won and the whole thing right there, and out of nowhere, the angel in stripes, which they never do, this official comes running down the sideline and says, the ball went out on the 3-yard line, and it's your ball, and so I knew what happened. In all of the craziness, I knew what happened, so everybody else was going nuts. I didn't feel like we lost or anything because it seemed like just almost instantly he gave me the word of what happened. So we went right into what our next opportunities were, and so as we finish it up, we have a chance to run a play that we've run 1,000 times, which are my baseline of thinking. If you've got the game on the line, you go to your best jump shot from the top of the key and give it your best shot at winning the game from where you're most familiar, most confident, most well prepared. We have a play called that when we're going to kill the clock, we also block it for a quarterback sneak, and we point at the quarterback to tell him when we want him to sneak it. If we give him the clock play, he throws the clock play. If we give him the clock play and point at him, he's supposed to sneak it. Okay, so that's what we did. And I said, Sark, did you get it? Did he get it? Because there was a chance to win the game right there. And I think I said the 3-yard line. We were inside the 1.
You got a good mark.
Yeah, and so I said, right now, let's go, right now. Give it to him. Make sure you got it. Did he get it? Yeah, he got it. And so I look out there, and Matt's starting to kind of look around. And I look over at Charlie, and Charlie's out on about the numbers. He's on the field. So I start, doing like we're going to do the clock play, not really making. And the Dan Marino thing that I talked about earlier went through my head at that time, and I was trying to let Charlie think that we weren't going for it. I didn't know what he could. I didn't realize that there was nothing he could do about it at the time. But I was trying, Charlie, come on, Matt. And then Matt steps back and looks at Reggie, and he says, Reggie, I don't know if I can make it. Reggie says, go for it, you got to go, And so Matt, okay. And so that's what happened. And that's why Reggie was tuned in to shoving him in, because he told me, better get in, dude, and so he knocked him in the end zone, and away we go, So it was pretty exciting.
One of the greatest college games ever, and that's the one time I never complained about being put in the end zone. I was sitting right there at that corner, and I'm looking at you, and when I saw that you didn't take off your headset and panic, I knew we had one more play. But the forces of the universe were with us that day.